All right, guys. Thank you for joining me today on Instinctive Archery. I'm Jeff Phillips. Got a good one here for you today. I hope and pray, as always, that you'll find helpful, that something about this video will give you something that you need, okay? That's my prayer, guys, as always. Okay, so what we're going to deal with today is something that we've not dealt with really a lot in our shot process and bow hunting with trad bows, whether it be recurves or longbows, either one, doesn't matter. It's all the same. If you shoot like I do, or anywhere close to like I do, which would be instinctive or split vision shooting, if you will, and even as far as gap shooting, okay, you could apply this to gap shooting, but primarily it's going to be for people that do not focus on the point of the arrow. In other words, if you don't actually focus on the tip of that arrow to point at that target and hold it at a certain distance below, if you're not focused on that point, if you're focused on the target, on your spot, and letting your peripheral vision see where it's at in relation, like if you're at full draw and your eyes are looking at the spot right there, if your eyes are looking at the spot, and you naturally, your peripheral vision will notice when your arrow is just right and left. You will notice it at full draw. You can't not notice it, because it is in what we call the sight picture, guys. You have a sight picture window, and that's the reason that bows are cut like this. You have a little section cut out of the bow right here, and that is called your sight window. Well, the reason for that is so that you don't have a complete blockage here where you can actually see that arrow. That's what that's for. And what it does, it allows you to develop what's called the perfect sight picture. And that's what I'm going to call today's video, is trusting your sight picture. It's that simple. There's really no other explanation to it. The style that I shoot and many, many others, that means you simply acquire what's called a sight picture. That is a picture at full draw of that target and where your arrow is at in a circle of sight, if you will. You can actually, if you were to look, you could see the bow hand, you could see the arrow, you could see everything, but you're not focused on that. You're looking at the target. You're looking at an intensely small spot. You're looking as hard as you can at a very tiny spot that you want your arrow to go. But when you do that, what happens is at full draw and you come into your anchor and you get your hook in, you will notice where that arrow's at. You will. That's called the sight picture. So learning to trust a perfect sight picture only comes through practice and only through the equipment you're using. That's right. In other words, if you change arrow weight to a massively heavy arrow, that arrow's going to drop at a distance. Now, short distance, no, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. But we're saying 25 yards and beyond, that's where it really comes into play, okay? But what you can do at distance like, say, 30, 35 yards, you can really pay attention to that arrow. See, anything under 20 yards, it doesn't really exist in your mind. You don't really pay attention to it whatsoever. But it's there, and your peripheral does pick up on it. Absolutely, it picks up on it. So when you draw the bow and you look at your spot and you let your peripheral vision, your subconscious sight, notice where that arrow's at right and left, you know that that sight picture is perfect for a perfect shot. Then all you have to do is execute without messing it up. In other words, pull through the shot and get a clean release. Just like those 3 arrows right there that are touching, those are my 3 cold shots. I have not shot today whatsoever. That's my first walk out here with the old battle longbow and shoot 3 arrows, and they're all touching, okay? I don't do that all the time, but they're gonna be awful close, all right? But I've learned, especially lately, I have learned to really trust my sight picture. I've learned at any distance to, first of all, I know what it is. I know what I'm seeing and where that arrow is going to hit. I just know it through practice. And I've learned to trust it and not second guess it. In other words, if you start really aiming, trying too hard to put too much focus on the arrow, and you become reliant on an aim, you could easily be wrong with different yardage and different weights of arrows and things. And if you go to shooting one bow versus a different bow or whatever, you can be completely wrong. Now me, the reason that I shoot the style that I shoot is because I shoot, as you guys know, a ton of different bows. Literally every week I'm shooting a different bow. I've got another new ILF rig coming in tomorrow. I shoot different bows, recurves and longbows all the time, okay? Now my arrow setups are generally the same. They're pretty close in weight, really close in length. Generally I'll cut a 28-inch arrow and I'll put somewhere around 250 on the front. So I know my arrows are all gonna shoot pretty close on any bow between 44 and 46 pounds. They're gonna be awful close. I'm just not gonna see a lot of difference. But with that being said, that's what you have to do, is you have to learn to trust your sight picture window. And guys, I wished I could draw it for you, but imagine this. Let's say you go out and you shoot your bow. When you get your arrow loaded up and you get in line with your target and you look at your target, you get your bow canted over and you come into your draw, don't think about anything else. Come all the way into your anchor, get your head in it, start looking at the spot that you want to shoot. While you're looking at the spot you want to shoot, at that point, right before you shoot, you can verify your sight picture. Verify that you have your bow arm right and left. In other words, the arrow right and left, that it is definitely going where you're looking. Even if you have to squint one eye or close one eye, it's perfectly fine. Sometimes that helps create tunnel vision. But if you can do that and verify that you are in line with that target, that arrow, everything is in perfect alignment, and you pull through the shot, bam, you can guarantee it's gonna be there. That's what I do, guys. I trust my sight picture. Lots of guys call it split vision shooting. Great. That is a very good explanation for it, especially at distance, because when I get beyond 25 yards, I pay way more attention to my arrow. I don't look at the point, I don't use it to aim or any of that stuff, which is fine if you do. If you want to do that, perfectly fine. I'm just telling you guys what I do, which is nothing but focus on my spot. But I can clearly see, because the way I put my head into my shot, my dominant eye is right over that arrow, and buddy, it can see right where that thing's at. Even if I close this left eye, I can see exactly where that arrow's going. I can. Okay, so I've learned to trust that. So it's a mix between an intense focus on a tiny spot you want your arrow to go, and that's the first thing you got to do. But you don't think about it. That's the magic, guys, of this type of shooting, is you don't think about it. You don't take your focus off where you want your arrow to go. Not at all. You are always looking at that intended target. And subconsciously, you will learn to trust that sight picture and know when it's right. That's what I do. It's fun and it's simple. I love it. Just like that. There's nothing else to it, guys. I promise you, there's nothing else to it in the world. So, I hope that you got something out of this. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box. I'll be glad to answer them, help you any way that I possibly can. But I want you guys to take your bow out there and start paying attention to that sight picture, to the feels good sight picture window. In other words, you may say, well, Jeff, I don't even understand what you're talking about. Okay. If you can draw and come into anchor at, say, 15 yards, let's just go to 15 yards. If you can look at a spot and you can come into anchor and you can look at that spot and you can pull through the release and hit it 2 or 3 times in a row. Okay, let's say you're doing that. You're on. You're shooting instinctive. Okay? The next time you do it, before you release, pay attention to it. Just pay attention to where the bow hand's at, where the arrow's at, where everything's at. That's called your sight picture. But I'll guarantee you, you may be focused on that little spot, but you are seeing a sight picture window. You are seeing it. And your mind says, it's right, it's right, it's right. And you know when it is and you know when it's not. In other words, if you draw and you hold even for a second or two and you are not lined up on your spot, your mind is going to tell you that you're off. Why? Because it can see it. It can see the right and left of where that arrow's at. Now, if you're not a dominant eye shooter like me, if you're left eye dominant and you're a right hand shooter, vice versa, that may be a different case. But if you're able to shoot a bow on the same hand that you have the dominant eye, I will guarantee you it's going to work. But you have to do these things for it to be effective. Number one, guys, don't forget this. You've got to put some cant on the bow. You can't shoot it completely vertical like a compound. You have to put some cant on the bow. And you have to get your head into the shot. You've got to do that. There is no way that you are going to be lined up and everything right if you don't get your head into it and get a decent hook and come in with a good solid anchor point and your head into the shot. Guys, that is the key. In other words, if I was shooting that deer, this is what it would look like right here. This is it, right here. Everything's in line. And as you see, it's going to go where it's supposed to go. You don't have to think about it. All you're thinking about is putting that arrow in the target where you wanted it. Trust your sight picture. You won't go wrong. Busted that knot. Matter of fact, that knot did get hit. Let's have to replace that one. There is nothing better than when you develop a process that works. A hunting process that works. You can just kill them all day long. Man, thank you for joining me today on Instinctive Archery. I'm Jeff Phillips. I love you guys so much. Pray that everything we say and do bring honor and glory to the good Lord in heaven that gives us all this cool stuff to enjoy. Till next time, goodbye.